Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. This episode could have fit with Let's Talk Fandom, and perhaps topic-wise would have. But as Travis is not with me for this one, and it is more of an interview, I decided to put it with Fanatarium Interviews. I have Dr. Anthony Bean coming back, who we had him on before. He wrote the Psychology of Legend of Zelda, and if you want to get a copy of the book, look in the show notes. You can have a way to get a nice, good discount with it as well. But recently, since we've all been kind of stuck at home and there's been a lot of stress and mental health needs, there was a survey that came across my screen about what video games people play to relieve stress. One of them being Legend of Zelda. I thought to invite Dr. Bean on to talk about it because that is basically his specialty. So I hope you guys enjoy the show, enjoy the interview, and of course, stay healthy and stay safe out there. I'm assuming you're like the rest of us, where what you were planning on, thought your spring was going to be, is not what your spring is.
Correct. Yeah, it's definitely changed.
And it's full of Zoom, Google Meets, and Skype.
Well, for the practice, because the Steelers projects. When was the last time I talked to you? What was our
2019? Let me pull that up.
That's why it's in the way. May. Actually, almost
a year ago.
Almost a full year ago.
May 25th is when I posted.
Literally. Wow. So yeah, May 19th is when we did this last thing.
So.
Yeah. So tons of stuff has happened. My God, it's been a year.
A full year, and back then all we talked about was the book itself, the Psychology of Legend of Zelda, which I've actually been reading again because it's like I need something that I can read right now. And but so I guess we're just gonna start right on this one because my children might break down the door any minute. So what about Zelda? Because when we said Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you were not surprised that's on here. What about
Not
Zelda? Do people see so stress relieving, or what do you see it as such a stress relief? Because it's not number one. The Sims and Minecraft is number 3. And those are games I can fully understand why they're here, because they're like nothing sandwiches. You just
they're nothing. They're just bread with nothing in the
Minecraft is
middle.
basically Lego. You're just building things and creating worlds. And The Sims is, you create a family and live in a neighborhood and just kind of do what you want. But Zelda is, an action game. It's an action adventure game. So what about Breath of the Wild is so... Do you see it as being so relaxing to people that people have been turning to it right now for stress relief?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of my clients have been going back and replaying Breath of the Wild because what they will actually do is they'll just go up to one of the places of the mountains or in a grassy plain where they know they're not going to be attacked and just listen to the music and use it as a meditation aspect to be able to just be like, this is just relaxing. Just listen to here, and it's a way for them to feel like they can actually get outside because of the wind blowing and then the soft music. It almost feels like they're in nature, which for a lot of us right now, we can't get out into do some of these things because some of us are under excessive quarantine and some of us are coming out of it, such as the state of Texas, which is not something I personally agree with. But we definitely are using this game, I think, to be able to reconnect with things that we used to be able to do outside in this moment because it's springtime, it's the right temperature, everything just seems to be perfect, except we're not really allowed outside or not supposed to be outside right now.
So it's the mix of a well done environment, what you're looking at, and a well done sound design that just adds to the relaxation of it because it's not made to keep you tense. It's like I've interviewed the composer of, like, for example, the Dead Space games, which are not games to relax. They're not stressing.
No,
but
they're
like
not.
In the music itself, he puts an extra layer of music that's underneath everything else that you can't really hear, but your brain detects and feels. That's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. And musically, you can do that. There's lots of stuff you will never hear that's going to cause you to get on edge. But Legend of Zelda in general doesn't really have that type of music. Doesn't really have that feel. It's supposed to be the type of one where you just go on an adventure and just be able to play, even when it's stressful. Even when you're say fighting a boss, it's never the type of one where like you want to check your controller at the screen and just yell at things. Does that seem about right?
Oh no, it seems totally right because when you're running through the game, the music interludes of what you were kind of talking about is literally allows you to switch things around when you start hearing that little like zzz, because I was like, oh, someone saw me. Where is it? And so you know that there's some sort of danger coming on around you. But if there's nothing around you, it's very calming, very stoic in environment and musical interludes that allow you to feel relaxed and to kind of do what you want to do in there, whether it's cooking, whether it's just sitting and doing nothing, or it's riding a horse.
And I imagine a lot of people are just riding the horse around that massive map. And it's like, oh, I'm going to go to that mountain way over there and just start riding.
Or their bike.
That is true. That is very true. And one thing I was surprised is, I know why Breath of the Wild's on here, because it's the newer one. It's the one that people have been playing. But I was curious. I wish they had dived down into more of the other options, because they only go top 10. And the top 10 top stress-relieving games that people have reported, number 1 is The Sims, then Breath of the Wild, then Minecraft, then Skyrim, then Madden NFL 20, then Pokemon Gold and Silver, then Tetris, and then Pokemon Sword and Shield, Super Mario Odyssey, the Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. And I was curious if they broke this down even more, if they had shown more of the options, how many more Zelda titles would have ended up on here? Because I imagine Ocarina of Time is usually on most people's list somewhere.
Twilight Princess as well, usually.
I don't imagine Majora's Mask would.
Not with a grinning moon coming down to destroy you.
But Wind Waker, I thought would, though, because you're just sailing.
Oh, Wind Waker would totally be there. Oh, hands down. Absolutely. One thing I definitely wanted to kind of point out, you see, with the list that you just went over, is that with all those percentages, if you add them up, it's all way over 100%. And so what I suspect they probably ended up did and are doing is that they are providing a list to people. So the question to me would be, is what lists are they actually providing? Are these just the games that have kind of come out in the last year or so, or a couple of years, or something like that? We don't really quite know what's the last of the series. Stuff along those lines.
Yeah, because like most of these games are new, but then you have like Pokemon Red, Yellow, and Blue, which kind of throw things off. Or are people that's reporting what games have you been playing that you find relaxing, and they give back a list. Yeah, because definitely all these together equal like 200
at
or so,
least
250, something like that.
Yeah, you're looking somewhere between 250, 300. So they might have been given that list back, and maybe people were just playing what's easily accessible.
So I did find the genre thing very fascinating. It says in most stressful, it says first-person shooters are by far the most stressful. But they're supposed to be. You're supposed to be quick. You're supposed to be on your feet. And it's the type of one where you're literally competing with other people who can be jerks. And then you have MOBAs. Then you have survival, which the whole point of survival games is you're supposed to be stressed. That's what people like about them. Then you have fighting games, and then you have MMORPGs, which kind of surprised me because MMORPGs aren't really supposed to be stressful. They're supposed to be time sinks, and I don't see if makers really think they're supposed to be stressful. But the relaxing ones are interesting because there's puzzle games in number 1, which yes, I can definitely 100% see puzzle games as very relaxing. And that's a huge, broad genre. And then RPGs is very, very close, within 0.3%. And then simulation, adventure, and then sandbox RPG. Which
would, if you look at them overall, that's actually a lot of role-playing games, which means in psychological terms that people are actually using them to experience a different part of themselves, that they are able to project themselves upon the characters within it, or they feel like they're actually projecting or immersing themselves within the game itself to be able to complete it, to do something great about themselves within the game. And that is the important part, I think, that needs to be kind of taken away from those stress relieving games, because within those RPGs we start to see puzzles come out, which when we know that when we complete a puzzle, we feel really good about ourselves, and that creates an internal sense of motivation to keep on playing. Now with like the role playing and like MMORPGs like World of Warcraft, they're just having a brand new one come out, so there's going to be a ton of people time sinking into that one as well. But that's another simulation style.
Yeah, so I'm curious because like in stressful games, World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 are both on there, and they did say MMORPGs are stressful. What about a MMORPG is stressful as opposed to Sandbox or these adventure titles that even Pokemon and so on? That is it the fact that you're playing with other people?
I mean, it could be a lot of different things. Have you ever tried to do one of World of Warcraft's looking for raid ones when you just get a whole bunch of people and they're just sitting in there and not doing anything, or they don't really know what to do with their character, or being able to manage don't stand in the fire is one of the ones that I like to tell people to not do. And when we look at that stuff, that itself is stressful because you're like, come on, guys, we have 40 people in here. We should be able to do this. This isn't even the hardest level. We should be able to take this down in 10 minutes. And the whole fight takes like 40 minutes. And you're like, this is ridiculous. So there's really like no real reason to have it be that stressful. But there's also the other aspects of what if you don't get the drop? What if you have to continue to kill the same beast over and over again because you're not getting that drop because it has a 10% drop rate, and for some reason that 10% is not in your favor in this 2 hours. I mean, that could be a stressful thing because it feels like you're being left behind by
or
your
if
friends.
Leroy Jenkins happens.
Every time.
Yeah, and I do think part of it is also just the fact that you're playing with other people, having to rely on other people. You have the internet's not necessarily the most reliable in some places right now, and the fact that more people are on it at one time has caused some serious stress on the system that internet companies weren't ready for. At least with Netflix 4K streaming. I think some of it might have to do with that one, because if everyone's playing, you're trying to do some really big things, say in World of Warcraft, where you're trying to do some really big raids, but if the internet doesn't like you and people start getting bumped off, it causes stress.
Absolutely. And I don't know if everyone else has kind of experienced it, but with us, with the internet, we're watching it, like I'm plugged into my router and I'm literally 3 feet away from it, and there is times when it's like, you have a really poor connection. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm plugged into you. I can't have a poor connection. Like there's no way I have a 400 megabyte download speed and a 50 megabyte upload. I'm like, that's not possible. It's just not there. And it's like, nope, it's not true. And we're like, goodness gracious, internet. So I'm sure like everyone's internet is kind of getting a little wonky right now, which probably is leading into some stress.
Another thing I find interesting, so the site that did this survey, they are known for selling beanbag chairs.
That's what they're famous for?
They're ComfySacks. So they sell the big old giant beanbag chairs. But they talked about components of stressful video games. Content difficulty. So I don't think many people are playing Bloodborne and Demon Souls right now to relieve stress. At least in general. Online players, as we just mentioned. Content subject matter. So I'm assuming if you're playing Resident Evil, you are aware that it's not going to be relaxing. Rules. Some of this might have to do with more Fortnite stuff. And in-game characters. Very little on in-game characters, though. 55% basically said playing online felt more stressful than playing. It's more stressful to play online than offline. That one makes sense.
That definitely does.
So the results of game stress: yelling at each other, yelling at a friend, breaking your controller. Oh, well, that's not a nice one. Those are expensive.
No, that's
yelling
not.
At significant other, punching a wall, breaking your console. Don't do that, please.
Oh, definitely. That's
ending
expensive.
a friendship or relationship. Oh boy. Yelling at the game. That one's safe enough. Yelling at the game is safe enough. Men were 2 times as likely as women to break a controller due to game stress. Women were 13% more likely than men to yell at significant others due to game stress. And 79.8% of gamers acting out as a result of game stress regretted doing so. Gamers reported being extremely comfortable while playing video games were least likely to act out due to game stress. That's interesting.
I think that's the interesting part over these things, over all these stats that we're seeing here, because I actually don't hear a lot about people punching a wall or yelling at significant other or something along those lines from the game stress, but more along the lines from they're using the games to relieve stress, and it's an external factor that's coming in, not necessarily the actual game itself. So I'm actually more curious after looking at these stats to see how much of these stats actually are really due to the game and not due to external factors. What was the time frame of these people actually taking this survey? Because I feel like some of these stats remind me of the ESRB stats that they put out every year as well.
That does sound right. Well, here's what they said for methodology. It said to collect the data shown above, we conducted a survey of 1,007 respondents, so that's a pretty good survey pool. To qualify for the survey, respondents are required to play video games occasionally, almost every day, or every day. Okay, that's a pretty good set for this type of survey. Of respondents, 293 reported playing occasionally, 356 reported playing almost every day, and 358 reported playing every day. The respondent pool was 58.4% female, 41.3% male, and less than 1% non-binary. A preliminary survey of 150 respondents was conducted to gather the top 50 most played video games. So they got the game list from the 150 people they did first, and then they used that list on the 1,000, it sounds like.
It does sound like it. So they used a very small sample to try to grab a bigger sample. That's almost similar to the whole idea of gaming disorder almost. And I see that they are talking about their beanbags in there as well.
Yeah, it's like according to the gamers who are extremely comfortable while playing, a gaming chair is the best furniture for stress relieving experience, followed by a beanbag, 30%. Unlike sitting on a couch or a floor, a chair designed for gaming can provide proper ergonomic support for long hours of play, which is true. There are times where just the things I sit on just cause pain. They aren't good.
Oh, absolutely. We bought the gaming chairs for the computer, and my wife even has one, even though she doesn't game, because it just has better ergonomic support.
Yeah, because the couch just is not the same. Couches are good for party gaming, like when there's a lot of you playing co-op together, which we don't do very much anymore. The floor is not good. Household chairs aren't usually good. Computer chairs can be okay, depending on what type of computer chair you have. Bed, not good. Do not, no.
No, it's terrible.
In theory,
Don't do
if you want to sleep well anyway, you should not be playing video games on your bed, in your room.
Yeah, the number one rule with the bedroom is you should not be doing anything in that bedroom except for sleeping, because actually psychologically what it does to you is if you're in there during the day and you're just laying around just reading or doing something like that, it actually creates a schema in your brain, your mind, that when you go in there at night, like, oh, I should be doing something else, which actually interferes with your sleep.
That's true. That's why they encourage people not to have TVs in their rooms, and definitely just don't be playing. A TV, I think the only time I've ever seen anyone say there's only any sort of thing about a TV in a room is if you're an adult, and occasionally it's not as bad for an adult as it is for a kid, but it's not good. Kids for sure, though, never have TVs in kids' rooms if you want them to sleep well.
Yeah, we don't. I didn't grow up with one, and our kids won't have one. I just don't see it as useful. There's no point. If they want to watch TV or something like that, they can do it in a family communal environment.
I do like how their study said gamers reporting being extremely comfortable while playing were more than 2 times as likely to not feel stressed while gaming.
Who would have thought? I mean, that kind of goes into the idea of the WHO backtracking almost exactly 1 year or 2 years past their whole idea that they're like, gaming's bad and it's causing all these problems everywhere. And then what was it, about a month ago or so, they released a statement saying, like, you know what, to make sure that everyone is socially connected still, you guys should just game, and there shouldn't be any restrictions or anything on it. Just go and game. And all of us researchers and clinicians were like, what? And we're like, we're gonna use this against you. You guys are idiots. And so, like, when I was presenting for Hawaii a few weeks ago, basically what we ended up doing was I took a screenshot of both of them and I put them side by side, and it's literally almost a year apart from each other. And I'm like, what is the problem with this? is that the whole idea is our perception of how we view games, and who, when there is nothing else to do and you can't be outside, what is their suggestion? They backtrack completely and say, go play video games, go do all these other things, even though they still haven't taken down and they're pushing forward with this whole gaming disorder stuff regardless. But yet here they are, a proponent of saying it should be used for social connectedness, which is one of the major arguments that we've had in the past.
And there was a news article the other day that says Australian politician asks citizens to stay home and play Animal Crossing: New Horizons. Which I'm surprised that one didn't show up on here, but I guess it was probably too new for when they did the preliminary, or it wasn't out yet when they did the preliminary. But that's one that people are playing a ton right now and interacting with celebrities, interacting with politicians, and people are asking him if he got paid by Nintendo, and no, he wasn't. It's just what people are playing right now, and it's very relaxing. Yeah, and one thing I do want to bring up, because I do know, since we're both in mental health, the gaming addiction one that people keep bringing up as a kind of a weird thing that the WHO did. It's my understanding in the definition of gaming addiction, which was being put into the definition of mental health, is the same sort of thing of basically being addicted to almost anything. It's just gaming counts as one of those addictions now versus not. Like, people can be addicted to adrenaline junkies. People can be addicted to food. People can be addicted to a lot of things, and gaming is just one of the things that in excess can cause serious harm. And so they put it in there as a definition, while some people are running with it as literally video games are going to kill you. No, excess of almost anything can kill you, and games just count as one of those things now. Am I wrong to assume that?
Well, that's what they're trying to push now, but it's not 100%. So let's say, like, I talk with some of the researchers, and I'm not going to name them because I don't want to defile their name appropriately, is that they basically have been kind of talking about the idea, like, well, not all gaming is bad, and you got to look deeper at really what's happening. And we're all like, this is exactly what we're saying, and we're like, all right, so what are you guys doing to be able to look deeper? And they're like, well, we're looking at stats. And we're like, that's not looking deeper. That's not doing anything. And then we're like, how many of you guys are actually seeing people as clinicians? And they're like, none of us. And we're like, what's happening here? Why don't you have clinicians? And then they actually hid something way deep down in the World Health Organization a website saying, like, if you're a clinician, you want to talk to us about this, we want to hear about it. But it's like so far down, it's really hard to find. And also, they want you to verify your license with them, and they put you through this entire crazy procedure where I was like, I don't even have to go through this to get my license here in Texas. Like, why would I put all this time and effort just so you guys could say yay or nay to maybe have us be kind of like a participant pool or something like that to talk about these things? Never mind, every time they update the ICD-11 codes online, I always get an email for this gaming disorder, and all they've done so in the last 6 months, honestly, has been they added one for online gaming and one for offline gaming now. And I was like, gosh darn it, guys, come on, you guys aren't doing anything. They still haven't given any definition of what's mild, moderate, severe. They haven't given any sort of real clear definitions on these things. And I think that it's really important that those things be given to us if we're going to be using this, because I have a lot of clients come in to see me, and their parents come in to see me, and we talk about their gaming habits. I'm like, this really isn't that bad. Like, they're using it for these types of aspects, and like, they're gaining all these other wonderful beneficial tools if you know what the game is about. And once we get the parents on board, which usually only doesn't take that long, the kids, like, they regulate themselves appropriately. It's quite amazing in my eyes.
And one thing I did see, there was a product which I see on Fine, that one of the websites that likes to track, I think the website likes to track marriages that are broken up because of stuff like Fortnite.
Oh, is this the Australian one again?
There's the website that tracks it, but they came up with a product that was supposed to cure people of video game addiction, which is essentially a stink bomb with durian and essential oil smells and things that they're just supposed to chuck at people. And it's like, yes, that thing reeks. Why are you calling this a video game addiction cure? Let's call it a stink bomb, as it should be. But people are like, oh, well, I bet in Asia this smells good because durian's a good smell. I'm like, yeah, but it's mixed with everything else. It's probably not good. But I can't acknowledge. I do know some people who have serious issues when it comes to like they will not stop playing games, and if you tell them to stop or ask them to stop, they hit people. They literally, like smack people, or
Mhm.
there's been issues with Fortnite where people are addicted so much they literally spend all their money or their parents' money, or don't realize that is real money. Um, but yeah, if they don't put the actual definitions in there, how in the world can they treat it like a real thing if they don't put mild? If they don't put the actual data in there to make it real, all they have is essentially a name.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, I think what you things you brought up is a good idea because we are going to run into problems like that down the line. But the question is how do we deal with it when the whole thing's so convoluted to begin with? And all of us deal with it differently. Like, I have a colleague who works with more of the behavioral challenged when it comes to some of those issues that you kind of brought up. And one of the things that he has to do is sometimes he has to get higher authorities involved. Sometimes he has to put down certain boundaries that are pretty rough for the kid. But you know what? They're succeed. They do succeed, and those things are really important to be able to talk about. But the problem is we're not. Is like we have all of these places out there that are like, oh, we will cure the video game addiction that your child has, but at the same time, we don't really do anything except just take you off of all electronics, and then after 90 days we just send you back out and say good luck. We're like,
And this
that's
isn't,
not
and we
helpful.
aren't in a world and society where you can do that. As we're learning right now, if we
No.
did not have electronics right now, society would not function. So we're saying removing you
Correct.
from electronics is the thing that'll cure you. No, that's not how it works. You have to literally rewire the brain, just like you would with most disorders. You have to literally rewire the brain in order to make it so they see electronics as in a different light versus just making it so they never use it, because that's not an option. It's like addiction for food. You can't
It's
say you're
not an
not
option.
eating food anymore. That's not how you cure food addiction.
It'd be kind of funny to be like, all right, guys, you guys are here because you guys are addicted to food. So what we're gonna do for the next 90 days is you can't do anything. Survive off sunlight. Go.
Like, and that's not how it works. But why do they think it? I
Correct.
know part of the thing is because when I was in college, we were conducting some of the early longitudinal studies about the effects of video games. Because when people were saying how video games could cause violence, the honest answer was no one actually knew, because the video games hadn't been around long enough to actually do long enough studies to say yay or nay. At least to properly verify. And we were part of those ones talking um, about violence. And I think our findings after 8 years, when my cohort was part of it, was basically, if you're already a violent person, some games can make your violent tendencies worse. But if you're not, it's not going to make it worse. Which is basically a nothing burger when it comes to the research. The people that like pushing those buttons didn't like that type of answer. But there hasn't been a lot of research to verify yay or nay. But right by now, though, we've had, let's see, it's 2020. So
Quite a
about
few.
20 years of actually studying video games, because I don't think they really started studying until late 90s, early 2000s, especially when that Supreme Court case happened with
Hmm.
California. But,
Oh yeah.
there really hasn't been a lot of research, especially not quality research. You usually have one side or the other doing rather biased research.
Yeah, pretty much. It's hard to do a realistic one because you have to acknowledge that what they call your own reflexivity when you do the research itself of where are you coming from, is why are you actually doing this study, and if you can acknowledge that, then it actually can make your study a little bit better. But most people don't like that because they're like, oh, that's a qualitative approach. We don't do qualitative approaches here because they don't mean anything. When in fact, they're really what all research should be based on and going through anyways. So to me, it's just like this is just dumb, and a lot of the research out there is just crap. Like I reviewed a paper a couple weeks ago that they gave a survey of 20 questions to fourth and fifth graders, but had the teachers ask them the questions and help them understand what the questions meant in the methodology. And I asked the questions of, how were they doing this? Were they appropriately trained? What questions were they allowed to say? What answers were they allowed to give? And they're like, and look at this. These 4th and 5th graders are addicted to video games and stuff like that. And I was like, you guys did this in the middle of school. You guys did this in a whole bunch of different things, and you could have had the teachers sway these things. And so I wrote a very long email over to the editor, and lo and behold, I just got an email 2 days ago saying, like, we accepted this anyways. And I was like, you guys are dumb. Take me off of your reviewer list. I don't want to review anything for you guys ever again. You're not taking any sort of sound methodology into existence. It's just stupid that some people are allowed to do this.
And yeah, going back to the survey we're originally talking about, I do find it interesting because at the bottom they fully admit that they sell beanbags, and they want people being comfortable, like having beanbags, it's a good thing. But they did mention the people who have extreme comfort, who have less stress, use gaming chairs, use beanbags, use normal chairs, and on the bottom's the floor. I'm just surprised that a normal chair is a lot higher up than a computer chair. I'm thinking some of that is computer chairs aren't necessarily office chairs, and office chairs you don't usually have while playing a video game.
Not a good one already. Well, those don't come with wheels.
Yeah, like my biggest challenge is I had to find a chair that I could play games on that didn't have wheels, because wheels on carpet are no good. At least where I play, and I didn't want that. Plus, I have kids, and I don't want them doing that. And so, finding a game that's a chair that's like an office chair that has no wheels, that's very hard, or at least can balance without wheels.
Yeah, hands down.
That's the big challenge. But we got to start wrapping this up in just a little bit. But one thing I want to bring up is, with all these games that people find relaxing, we've discussed their puzzle games, their RPG games, their simulation, but we did talk a little bit about the music, and all of these ones seem to have just kind of not generic, but like music that's not supposed to be challenging, so to speak. Like The Sims is, you don't really think about the music that's playing while doing it. Minecraft music is basically the type of music you'd play while doing mindfulness meditations, essentially. Pokemon, right. Similar. The only one that's kind of throws some of those off is Madden, because Madden can have more of the hip hop type music. It's supposed to kind of pump you up, but again, it's not like distracting.
Right, it goes into the subconscious almost of the person's mind, and it makes you feel at ease because of the repetitious cycle of it. So if you actually go through all of the different music, and this happens in Legend of Zelda all the time, Final Fantasy, all of them, that when you actually look at their soundtrack, it's actually just repeated over and over again. And so the music itself is supposed to be there to tell you a message and to bring notice to where you are in the land and where you are in different aspects of the world that you're playing within. And that music is psychologically pruned into our brains, where it allows us to be like, oh, I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm in a fight. I know I'm in a town. I know that I'm in this place because I'm hearing the music, and it's just automatic recognition that we do. It's kind of like the idea of habituation. We just become it becomes a normal sense to us to what to expect and where to go with it, and that's the reason why music is so important. It's not like we see Doom Eternal on there.
That would be awesome, but it's not.
That would be awesome, because I'm not gonna lie, I love that game. That game is super fun.
Rip and tear.
Oh god, it's so much, especially if you get the unicorn costume, because you just gotta imagine what the baddies are looking at, like this just pink rainbow unicorn coming through and just destroying everything. You're like, what is happening?
This one was that one probably had the same reason as Animal Crossing for why it's not on here. I did notice though that Madden NFL 20 is on the stressful and non-stressful list. And one thing I've also realized is a lot of these games which are on the stressful list are also very technically exact games. Like, for example, Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. If you've seen professional people play that one, that's like you got to be exact with your buttons. You got to be perfect, or else you will die.
Yes,
shooters, same thing. They're very quick. You're moving very quickly. Dead. Fortnite. I don't play Fortnite. My kids just do the dances. I think Fortnite depends on how you're playing it. But World of Warcraft, all these ones, these are, you have to do things exactly, or else you fail in what you're trying to do. Meanwhile, Resident Evil 2 is literally a guy's hunting you and trying to murder you. That's I imagine Resident Evil 3 would be on here as stressful if this was done just a little bit later, because that's literally an entire game of a guy hunting you to kill you. And it was stressful back when it came out originally, and now that it's remade in HD glory, it's probably even more so.
Oh, I can imagine being hunted in that one. Gosh, you just hear the music and you're like, where is he?
Imagine
What's
in
happening?
VR.
Oh, good. I don't even
Meanwhile,
want to.
Breath of the Wild in VR probably would be quite relaxing. You might vomit,
That'd be great.
but
People
you
have
might
cracked
vomit
it.
as well. But
People have like
yeah,
cracked some of it.
that would be interesting if Nintendo could end up doing that one, because we know now that they can do full-on games in VR. Like Half-Life Alyx proved that you can do an actual 20 to 30 hour actual game in an actually big franchise in VR, and it actually makes it better, or at least makes it a new experience. So I'm just ready for Legend of Zelda
Absolutely.
VR coming out and see if people use that as relaxing. I could see you in therapy using that type of thing to help people, using VR to help people once it's at a point where it's not going to make you throw up as much.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we actually do. There's some VR programs out there called like Tilt Brush that you can use for VR and create an entire surrounding experience of like where you're in nature and have nature sounds built out. You can build your own like treetop canopy style of relaxation and do some mindfulness in that capacity.
Yeah, because I imagine you could use VR in the future for mindfulness and probably some exposure therapy, honestly. Safer
Yeah,
exposure
we
therapy.
do. The spiders.
Spiders, the dark,
I've seen
dogs.
some videos of that.
Much better
Yeah.
than what people used to do. Ooh.
All right, now touch this spider and let this tarantula crawl on your face, and you're like, ah.
I think one last thing, one last little tangent before I have to wrap up. One thing that I remember in college that I found the most like weird therapy that people used to do that's now very much banned, but like the rebirth therapy where people used to like put you in like pillows and sleeping bags and like hold you in there as you trying to like shove your way out, and then people actually like suffocated and died. I don't think this is helping. Like, you think you'd stop once the
Yeah.
first person dies, but then they just continue.
Yeah, you would, but if you look at psychology's history, I mean, people are like, no, people need to die in order for us to know these things, and I mean, it's pretty prevalent in lots of different lots
that's
of
true.
our
And
areas.
as much as people, I had someone actually literally trying to tell me that good thing we threw out every bit of knowledge we ever gained from Nazi scientists and doing, especially in psychology. Is like, we
You might want to rethink that.
We really didn't. We just don't talk about that much. We learned a lot.
Yeah,
We just don't want to do those again.
and
We
absolutely.
didn't throw it away. Too many people died for us to chuck that away. But on that note, your book, The Psychology of Legend of Zelda, is still out there, and people can buy it. Yeah, I believe from your direct website, correct?
Yep, they can buy it from the direct website. Amazon. There's also we managed to talk to Ben Bella, and they have a special code right now, and I don't know how long it's going to go on, but they can buy the physical book at 50% off, and the ebook for like $4.99 if they want. If they buy it straight from the website and use the special codes, which
and we'll have the codes with the show notes. And do you have any other projects coming out anytime soon?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have, over the last year, we started Geek Therapy Training, where we train clinicians on how to use geek culture, whereas video games, anime, comic books, Dungeons and Dragons. And so we do tons of webinars. We're fully booked up for trainers this year already. We've been booked up for about 2 months. And so we're already starting to look at 2021. And we started a publishing company, which we have the Psychology of Final Fantasy coming out, which there is a music chapter in there done by the dean of TCU. Music studies, so it's really, really well done, and it's just going to be an insane book to do because there's going to be like 13 chapters in this one.
I can't wait. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, we'll have it for free sale probably in the next month or so.
Sounds like something we'll have to discuss in the next couple months.
Oh, and yeah, hands down, we're already starting to see a lot of interest for it. So
that's awesome, and I've been waiting for some more. What's to say when as far as like gaming and so on stuff I'm waiting for, like Christopher Tin, the guy who's won the first Grammy ever for video games. He's had an album ready to come out for a while, but because of all what's been going on, it's been delayed. I'm like, I just need your music back. Your music relaxes me. Bring it back. Hurry up.
I use the Legend of Zelda ones. What's her face does a violin solo, and I forget her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Taylor Davis?
yeah. Yep, that's it. And I think that her stuff is just super great. I bought all of it, and she does a bunch of other video game music, which is really soothing. And then there's also the Zelda Orchestra, or like
Yeah,
there's
the Symphony of the
not
Seven
the
Goddesses,
symphony.
that one? Or, yeah.
Yeah, those ones are good, but there's also like I have their shirt because I saw them at PAX one year. That they do like this amazing, just like quartet of Zelda music.
Nice.
Yeah, super great because it's like done in classical style, but it's like you can easily tell it's still very Zelda-esque.
Nice. And on that
Yeah.
note, we should probably wrap this up, but we'll definitely talk to you in the future because it sounds like you have some things that I, for one, am very interested in, and I hope our listeners are as well. And as usual, folks, stay safe out there. Don't do anything too stupid.
Try
And,
not to.
the Who says, sit down and play video games, relax, do something fun, do something that can keep your mind off things. And if you are in a place where you can actually go outside as well, do that too. There's a lot of science that says go outside in the sun. It's good for you. And not just for your skin not to be pasty white. If you can do both, do both. But thank you, Dr. Bean, and we'll talk to you again in the, sounds like, near future.